All right, welcome back, everybody. I thought it'd be fun to continue the series. I don't know if anyone noticed I posted the catcher video the other day. I didn't actually post it here on Slack, so it's just under the previous videos if you hit on the tab after this one. This one today, I thought I'd have the guest on I talked about last time. We're joined by Tyler, the San Francisco Tyler. What's going on?
Hey, how's it going, Dan?
So me and Tyler are actually buddies from the other league, and joined him here. So real good baseball mind, and he's having a really good season here. So I thought it'd be fun to have an episode with two people on, have a couple different opinions here. We actually work together, putting together some of these rankings. So we'll be able to see today. We'll do the first base and third base, and we'll go over and just kind of review our rankings. I just wanted to kind of have a. I'm new to the league, so I thought it'd be really fun to learn the league better and kind of be able to have my own opinion and on because I find the OSA ones just way off. They like rank very differently, I think, than us humans sometimes. So thought it'd be really cool to spend a bunch of time and put together like a huge spreadsheet and see all my individual rankings. So I know with trade value, if I go to trade for a guy, it's, oh, he's really good. He's like a top 8 first baseman or something. So, anyways, without too much rambling, let's just jump into it. Let's start with the honorable mentions. Actually, number 11, 12, and 13. What do you think about the season Austin Riley's having here, Tyler? And Mike Williams, we got on the list, and Caleb Tuzio, the three honorable mentions.
Yeah, all at three kind of different stages. Riley had the massive breakout like a year ago when he was kind of, he had been middling for a while before that. And the power shot up kind of late in his career. So, he's a good one. Is obviously a big free agent signing for Toronto this year. Williams kind of on the other ends, like the young up and comer. It's just a massive, massive bat for him. So he's going to be fun to watch with like that entire young Montreal core. And then Tusio's a good one too. He's having a really nice year in San Diego. Not an easy park to hit in at all, but sporting a near 900 OPS is nice for them. So it's if those three are just making the cut, it's obviously a pretty good list of top first basemen we have here.
And I will add in that Tuzio I see is on the trade block, so that's going to be a big time acquisition if he ends up moving this year. He's only 28 years old on a pretty decent contract, the nice little team option at the end. So a pretty friendly 3-4 years of pretty adequate money for a guy that has 70 power and 70 gap. So that'll be quite the move here, I think, if someone makes a move for a big bat, which everyone always needs, especially in this league. I notice it's a little heavy on pitching, and some of the offenses aren't performing quite as well. So definitely be someone that's targeted this year. So yeah, those three I just showed on my screen there. Riley, especially, I love the career year. Now we can bounce into the top 10 in order. So number 10, we have the big free agent signing, Bryce Ball. Bryce Ball signed with the Phillies from Atlanta. He was a guy that got a huge 3-year contract. The Phillies had a lot of free money this offseason, so they made a couple big signings. Bryce Ball is making 30 million a year for 3 years here, but he's probably worth it. He had 4.84 WAR the last 2 years. The guy isn't doing so hot this year though. He's having a slow start in Philly. Those lefty bats don't play up quite as much as the righty bats in Philly. The guy's got crazy ratings, but he's striking out quite a bit here. He's walking a lot. He's got 20% walk rate, a small sample size, but he just doesn't seem to be making a lot of contact or power yet this year. But I thought he deserved the spot in the list because obviously he's a good player. He's performed every year since 2024. And you've been here for the whole time. Sure, he's been one of the better bats all those years, hitting like 40 home runs almost every single season. So this year, not quite living up to it, but hopefully he bounces back.
Yeah. It's tough to see the drop off, right? Like you said, it's been so consistent for so long between Tampa and Atlanta. It's like 35 to 45 home runs, OPS in the high 800s every year. So, and you'd think Philly'd be a great park for him. That lineup has just a ton of power throughout. So, feel pretty good about him turning around. But anytime anyone starts to get into the mid 30s, it's especially as a power hitter, it's interesting to see.
Yeah, we'll see if he can turn it around. But quite, it's a nice thing too about those short-term contracts. Even though he paid a lot, he isn't stuck with that deal for 7-8 years in case he does start to regress. But it's you pay a little bit more, but sometimes it gives you a little bit of freedom. It's not too bad. So still like that signing. Next up, we have another stud young Montreal guy. So in the honorable mentions, we just talked about Mike Williams, who He's probably going to be a top 5 player on this list in a year or two. We have a lot of older guys as we get up this list, and Mike Williams has a crazy bat. He hasn't really done it yet, so we had him on the honorable mentions. He's a rookie, so we didn't want to put him ahead of these guys that proved it for like 7, 8 years. But his teammate has proved it a little bit here, just a bit more, because he had a whole 150 games last year and performed very well, and he's having a pretty good start to this season. What do you think about the two-way sensation, Chris Briggs?
Yeah, yeah, really like Chris Briggs. He can get away with it at third base too, which is nice to have. That kind of flexibility, but probably better suited for first. I think a lot of us when we did our preseason predictions might have forgotten about Hirano a year ago, but picked him to be our rookie of the year, and in a lot of years he would have won it. He had a really good year a year ago. As a reliever, the pitching side isn't playing a ton for him, but the bat is gigantic. Great contact. Anytime you can pair high contact with good power as well, he's gonna be a really good player. So on pace to improve in the power stats a little more than last year. The average and on base has dropped a bit early, but it's a bat that's going to be really good for a long time in this league.
Yeah, you can just see the consistency in the slugging, always about 500 there. And then it's the walk rate this year. It's a 1.2% walk rate, which is extraordinarily low, even though 40 eyes not bad. Like, there's a lot of guys with 25, 30 eyes. 40 still should walk like 3, 4, 5% of the time. So I'd imagine, yeah, he'd probably start playing even better. That ISO is pretty good, 230. So yeah, that's a big combination. Those they have at first base there. The next like 5 years with all those guys under team control, having Briggs and Williams, whether I'm sure, like you said, Briggs will probably play some third base the odd time, and Williams will play first, or Williams probably DH and Briggs will play more first. We'll see how those
Hmm.
two do together, but they're going to be some big bats in the middle of that lineup. Next up, we have Andrew Vaughn. Andrew Vaughn is a monster. He's 33 years old. He just went and he had a huge contract here with Milwaukee. He's front loaded pretty hard on a huge, expensive, beautiful deal. He's worth it though, but 29 million, 24 million. Then we have an opt out, and then another 24 million, then a player option for 24 million. So nice player friendly contract got him. I remember he was one of the big free agents left, and holy smokes, he's liking it in Milwaukee. Guy's hitting 317 with a 430 on base percentage. He's fragile now, but he has stayed healthy for the most part, almost every year on the looks of it here, except, well, yeah, every year. So I don't know why he's fragile, but he has been healthy almost every single season of his career and played a ton of games and hit super well every single year. He's on pace for 8.2 WAR, so I think it shows how good those top basemen are. If we have 7 guys ranked above him right now.
Yeah, Philly probably feels on the wrong side of this with him leaving and Ball not having a great start there. Is another guy they're basically right around the same age, and Vaughn is having a career season at 33, and this guy's already been a two-time All-Star. So we'll see if the pace is sustainable. I do love the bats. Another guy where makes a ton of contact. He also just walks a ton. So it's a really good first baseman, and that Milwaukee infield is really really good. So he's a nice piece to add to that.
Yeah, this guy smashes lefties. I'm trying to remember. I'll click on my screen here, the Milwaukee Stadium. I know it plays up hitting pretty good. Yeah, so the home runs are, yeah, they're up about 10% for left-hand batters. So it's actually the average plays a little bit down, but the power plays a little bit up. So that's a really good fit for him, having the high batting average, even though the average plays down about 20%, and then or like 2%, sorry, and then the power plays up a bit. So it's yeah, a really nice fit for him there in Milwaukee, and just mashing home runs like the old Ryan Braun type numbers. Next up, we have Alex Bregman. Alex Bregman is number 7 on this list. The guy is just destroying the last couple of years in Coors. He led the league with a 419 on base percentage in 2029. And then last year, they won the World Series. Those 2 years, he had over 10 and a half combined WAR in those 2 seasons. And so he's fully converted to first base now. I'd imagine he was maybe third base for one of those years. But yeah, ever since he came to Colorado, essentially, he's been a first baseman. So the guy is a little bit ahead of Vaughn. I think the only looking at their ratings, they almost have the same ratings. Vaughn has a little bit higher contact and power. Bregman has a little bit higher defense and avoid K, and his running's a little better. Pretty similar players, and I think he gets some Coors bump. But I figured winning the World Series and how well he's performed last 2 years, he probably deserved to be a little bit ahead of Ryan, or sorry, the last pick there, Andrew Vaughn. What do you think about those two? Or do you think we have that right, or is it pretty close to call, like a coin flip almost?
Yeah, you're I think you're right in that, he does get a little bump from Coors. You do have to give, credit where it's this year from Vaughn has been, kind of his first real big one, and Bregman's had a million of them. It's weird to say Bregman's falling off a little bit now at 37. The last 2 years haven't been quite the, 1,000 OPS we saw for the million before that. So, losing a little bit of the pop, but still a really good hitter. He's been so important for that Colorado team being good for forever. So I think we got it right. Got to give credit to a guy who's been around and done it forever.
Yeah, I didn't realize how illustrious his career had been here. That's why I like doing these lists, looking more in depth at these stats. The dude has 90 career WAR, and he's going to hit his 500th home run this year if he stays healthy. So that's a pretty insane Hall of Fame career. So yeah, it definitely deserves to be up there, maybe even higher. That was another one. He was pretty close to Alvarez when I was doing this. So next up at number 6, we have Jordan Alvarez, who is actually insane power. His other ratings are quite a bit lower, like the avoid the approach and the gap power and everything, but I just couldn't get over his home run totals. Just been absolutely ridiculous. Putting up over 50 home runs 5 times in his career. Just an absolute menace. 559 career home runs, 50 career WAR. The guy is an absolute beast, and he's 4 years younger than Bregman, so it looks like he might. He's not fragile yet, so I think with his youth, maybe he's just the power, but I could have had that wrong. Like those two guys below probably both have a little better ratings, but that 75 power with Alvarez is just really jumps off the page for me.
No, I mean he's up there, and if not the best power hitter ever in FTD, he's got to be close. I mean, you look at that; he's led the league 5 times, including the last 3 years. So tough to put a guy who leads the league in home runs every year too low at the
Yeah, that's
position.
true.
But just has been in Houston and just mashed for forever in this league. So there's a little up and down in his career, but another guy, he's got 4 Silver Sluggers and just a ton of all stars too. And a lot of this list right here has been kind of in their early 30s, so it'll be an interesting kind of transition of changing of the guard here.
Yeah, while you're talking there, I was just looking at his batting ratings. I didn't realize he. It's interesting. He started on Houston, had a couple years in the NL Central teams there, the Cubs and the Cincinnati, and didn't do bad at all. But he wasn't quite. As soon as he came back to Houston, he jumped back up to those six
Hmm.
WAR seasons. So must really like that ballpark and that lineup quite a bit. Absolute monster though for sure. Next up, we have the top 5. So these, and to be clear, this is current rankings, not career rankings, obviously, or else Bregman Alvarez probably be like really high. But so right now, since they're getting a little bit older, I figured Pete Alonso. This is a hard choice for me to put Alonso. I remember that was one of the longest decisions I had doing my rankings, was sitting there figuring out if Alonso should be above Alvarez and Bregman. I just figured right now with how good his eye is, he is just so nasty with the high contact and gap power in his eye. But that's questionable. Like I said, I could be swayed pretty easily because it was really another one of those coin flips for me. I remember sitting there and ranking those 3. I really took quite a bit of time on that. So I finished with Alonso above those guys, though. I love the nickname Polar Bear. His mentals aren't as good, but he is an absolute beast. Doesn't quite have the crazy war totals, but he did have 4.6 last year, and he's a pretty good base runner too. The guy is pretty special eye though. When you have 65 power and 70 eye, that's a pretty nasty combination.
Yeah, Alonso has a real interesting history in FTD where I think the Mets right around, his when he's in his early 30s saw some signs of, thinking he was aging. So goes unprotected in the expansion draft.
Oh,
Nashville picked him real early and flips him almost immediately to St. Louis. I don't think he has a game played for Nashville. Yeah.
oh,
In
wow,
that
okay.
same offseason, he gets flipped straight to St. Louis. So um, you know, cities, New York's a tough place to hit the ball, and any signs of there, it'll fall apart. So going to St. Louis has helped him a ton. It's a good team around him there. So another guy who's definitely getting older, but good to see him keep up and not fall off too quick.
Yeah, that's an interesting history. I'm glad you told me that. And just looking at, yeah, what a career year last year at 4.6 WAR. Had a couple other 4 WAR seasons earlier, but the guy just showed major eye late in his career here. His walk rates are just so nasty at 13.9%, 12.7%. So this is a combination. We have that big of a bat in the middle of the lineup, having that much eye and that much power. It's just pretty cool. So we actually, yeah, hit him right up in the top five. Now we get into the huge bats here. Next up, we have the really interesting, really cool player here for Toronto, a huge contract coming over from Japan, is Hirano. I have to look it up and see if this guy's real. I don't think so. But yeah, so Hirano has a ridiculous profile. He can almost play third base, but he's just got quite a bit of low air there, and the range is pretty low. So we got kind of killed there last year with the -10 zone range and 27 errors. But it's passable at a low level with how good his bat is. He still had a ridiculous 7 WAR season. But this year he's playing first base and probably eventually just be like a first base DH. The guy is not quite as ridiculous last year, but he's pretty close. He's still on pace for 40 home runs, slugging right about the same at 600, 322 ISO, just pounding the shit out of the ball this year. He just has strikeout rates a little bit higher this year. That's the main difference, and the batting average a little bit lower. But just a ridiculous, ridiculous bat that Toronto had to pay out the nose for. They got almost mid 30s here for the next 5 seasons or so. Starts high though, and then it gets a little bit lower at the end with a buyout, so it's not too bad if he falls off. But still only 31 years old. So he should be one of the better hitters in the league for the next 3 or 4 years, I'd imagine.
Yep, he. I can tell you, Cam wasn't the only person trying to pay him that number. We were we were going back and forth.
Oh, just
Obviously,
cut off.
that'll kill me.
There you go.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, just cut off for like 1 second. Sorry, you're back.
Oh, sorry. No, no worries. No, Cam and I were going back on offering him, when he was coming over last off season. So I can't quite forgive myself for letting him go. But yeah, what a year last year, right? He wins Rookie of the Year a year ago. Basically, All Star, every award you can. Um, and it's like you said, it's just such a good bat across the board. Where he's going to be a 900 plus OPS guy basically every year with that profile.
Sure.
Good personality too. So great ad for them. And like you said, he passable at third, and he played a lot that year. But getting him trained up at first is probably the way to go for Toronto. So looks like another season of probably 40 home runs, and not as good of a team around him. Toronto's doing a little bit of a rebuild, but with a little more talent, they'll be back real soon.
Yeah, especially with that arm so nice, you'd love to be able to play him at third, but you can get away with one of those categories being low, like range or air, but having both of them pretty low really hurts. I think if you had 40 range but like 65 air, 75 arm, you'd be fine there. But yeah, when you're
Hmm.
letting up a lot of airs and your range isn't good, it kind of hurts. So, but yeah, real nice at first base though, 40 range and big arm, and just has some nice tools. So guys are really really good baseball player. I almost said football player there. In football season, I guess. All right, next up, the big three here. So I have these top three as really special players, and from what I've seen of them so far. At number three, we have Miami's own Juan Figueroa. This guy is a monster. This guy is 27 years old. He has crazy ratings across the board. He doesn't have a crazy eye, but it doesn't really matter when you make that much contact and don't strike out a lot. First pick of the draft in 2026. He was up in 2028 already with positive WAR, and then he had a little bit of a more of a contact season year for with only a 197 ISO. But then last year he exploded for a 274 ISO, jumped his OPS from 790 to 920, and then now he's in his prime and he's on pace for another 920 season. The guy has crazy power. When you have that much power and you only strike out like 14 and 12% of the time last 2 years, that's really special. A ton of doubles, 75 gap power, fly ball hitter, just has everything you look for pretty much. No real big weakness. Pretty good on defense too. An absolute stud of a player here from Wichita State. I love it.
Yeah, it's the bat profile reminds me a ton of Jairo Pomares on my team, with just those top three being so high. And again, not an easy park to hit in there in Miami, and he just absolutely mashes. It was good to see last year, just a huge breakout for him. And you look at the numbers across the board; they're basically on pace to do the exact same thing again this year. So really good talent there for them. That's a team that's starting to challenge a lot more. So especially with getting big bats there, it's a priority for them. So he's a good one.
Yeah, when you said that stadium comment, I was thinking of my old team Philly in the other league, how they play right-hand bats up so much. I can't imagine what that guy would do in Philly with 70 contact and 75 gap and 65 home run. Probably hit like 55 home runs, just because it plays power up like 27% against power righty bats. So that what a special bat. The craziest part is he's number 3 on this list, not even the highest rated Miami Marlin at first base. Number 2 is also from Miami, also a first baseman. These two guys are just going to be such a deadly combo for so long. Already have been for a couple years. Number 2 on the list, we have the young sensation, 23-year-old Dionisio Capelli. The guy has absolutely everything you look for in a baseball player. He has 80 speed and 80 stealing. So the guy's a first baseman that's going to get you like 35, 45 stolen base a year. He has pretty good defense, 65 rated. Doesn't even really probably have to play there a ton because, yeah, he plays there only about 44 games in 1 year in 93. So kind of play a little bit of second base too, it looks like. Probably got killed there a little bit in his own range with the 35 error. But the dude can be DH first base. Doesn't matter where you play him because the bat plays everywhere. An unbelievable talent. And I imagine this guy's career numbers are just going to jump off the page the next 5 to 10 years. It might be the best hitter in baseball in a year or two here. He might already be.
Yeah, no, haven't seen him yet this season. So it looks like he only has a couple days left on the IL. So excited to see him come back. You look at for a guy who's only 23 and all the different things he's already led the league in. Steals every year, triples a couple times, runs. For a tough team. So, like you said, it's such an interesting profile where you'd think you'd get a little more help on the range side with him being 80 speed, but regardless, it plays up so well offensively. It's such a good duo there with those two, having to pick and choose who to play first and who to DH. But man, they both absolutely mash, and he's a little more dynamic with his speed, but he'll still get you, like his numbers have been 20 to 30 home runs a season. Hitting 300 almost every year. It's a great duo there.
And while you said is what he's accomplished already, I just realized he has 3 2020 seasons already at the age of 23, which is unbelievable. 22 home runs minimum each year with over 30 stolen bases. So the guy's going to be a permanent fixture. He might be one of those guys that gets 10 years in the 2020 club, which would be insane.
Hmm.
Might even get there this year, even missing 40 games. I'd imagine he should be able to get to 20
Yep.
home runs, 20 steals still. We'll see if he can stay healthy the rest of the year. Oh my God. Last year, his BSR, sorry, 2 years ago, was 12.8. Oh my, that's the best base runner I've ever seen. 8 UBR. A first baseman being like a generational base runner. That's hilarious. What an absolute freak of nature. And number 1, speaking of freak of natures, is probably not too hard to guess who hasn't been named yet. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., the monster. He is number 1 on this list. He is unbelievable. The guy is an elite defender at first base. He could still play third base at a very high level if they wanted to, but they have Wander Franco there, obviously. Not much needs to be said about Vladdy. He's just clearly one of the best players in the league, and you could probably talk about his career a little bit more. But I just looking now, 1 year under 300 batting average since his age 20 season. That's just outrageous.
Yeah, you look at all the red ink all over his page when you go to his career stats. He was great in Toronto early in his career. It's actually crazy he's never won an MVP in this league. He's gotten so
Yeah,
many. Just he gets picked in our preseason thing by a couple teams every year. He didn't win it, and he's got a 9.7 WAR season back in 2022. I'd have to look back to see how he
jeez.
didn't, but some unbelievable numbers from him. He's done it, throughout the history of the league. So, continues still, 32. We've seen him for so long. You'd think he'd just be older at this point, but he's been so good. No signs of slowing from him either. So, definitely deserving of number 1 on the list.
Yeah, even at age 32, as good as those Miami bats are, I don't see him getting knocked off this list for quite a bit of years. Even if he fell to like 60 contact with how good his defense and base running is and athleticism, yeah, like he's gonna have to fall off a lot to fall out of this top 3. What an elite player! I think that Miami guy's been pretty damn close, but I'd imagine Vladdy's gonna hold the title of king first baseman for a couple more years at least. Who knows
Hmm.
though? Next up, we have third baseman. We've been got not quite as deep of a list at third base, so we'll talk about these honorable mentions quickly. First up, we have the top 3 here. I'll search them on my screen if you want to talk about them a little bit. So Sebastian Guerra here on Boston. He is one of the honorable mentions.
Yeah, a little bit of a fall off. Boston's had a couple bad luck with some guys here that have just fallen off a touch.
Oh wow, yeah.
He came in so hot when he came into the league. Back to back 6 more seasons to start off. Couple Silver Sluggers, Rookie of the Year. Last year wasn't great, and off to kind of a very similar, equally pedestrian start this year, but still a very good player. Draws a ton of walks, can still hit for good pop. So hopefully he can turn it around. Still just 28. So he's kind of a second base, third base tweener, but I agree probably fits better at third. So good to have that flexibility at least, though. But definitely a very talented player.
And the other honorable mention we have here is Gortana on the Rockies. The Gortana has a pretty nice looking profile here and makes not much money. He's on pace for quite a big year here, so he's pretty damn close to this list. Only one spot off, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think he's one of those guys. I remember him spending a lot of years with the White Sox and being pretty average. Nothing that would scare a list or anything. But playing up a little more in Colorado, he comes over the deadline and has 2 WAR in the last 50 games there of the season. That's a similar profile to Aguiar in the outfield, who does crazy things for them too, and he's a really good defender at third. So
Right.
good pickup for them, and like you said, on a very manageable contract over the next few years. So good piece to hold on to for them.
Yeah, really definitely earned his spot as an honorable mention with how good he's played the last year and a half. And then next up, just outside the top 10, actually, we have Brady House as the other third honorable mention. House is real close to be on this list. He just hasn't quite proved it enough, for, in my opinion, to be ahead of some of these top 10 guys.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. You look at the profile, and I think it's a top 10 profile, but exactly like you said, just needs a season of putting it all together. Really, really good defender at third base. The gap power too should hit just a ton of doubles, and a year for that to explode, which it doesn't look like at least at the start of this year it hasn't been. And Seattle's been kind of surprisingly good, so we'll be excited to see. Still in just 27, so. Great base runner, so I know you like that too. But yeah, he could very well be on this list in a season or two.
Yeah, that Seattle Stadium's so hard, man, for power. It's 35 games,
Yeah,
0 home runs with 60 power and 60 contact, 50 power. And high gap power. It's surprising he hasn't hit one yet, but I imagine he'll go on kind of a run and finish the year with 10 or 15. But yeah, that's quite crazy how hard it is to hit home runs in that stadium. So the top 10 here, we'll jump into number 10. We have, sorry, let me see here. Oh, you know what? Yeah, sorry, I was looking at the wrong place. So Matt Chapman here. Matt Chapman is a monster defensively. Is that the best third base defender of all time, or does Arenado still get the nod for you in FTD history?
oh God, you're trying to get me to start a fight here with that one. No, I think Arenado has. Well, shoot, they're both to double-digit Gold Gloves, I think. So it's
Jesus.
just glad they've stayed in different leagues for forever more than anything.
Right.
Um, hey, he could get away with it. Arenado's a little more of a pure third baseman. Chapman, you can get away with it short if you wanted to move it to with the range, but um, the bat is starting to slip a bit on him. It looks like this season, but he's 38. It's got to at some point, but still, he's such an elite defender where he makes up for what's been it's a solid offensive career. I don't think he has an All-Star appearance in maybe the very first year of FTD, but he's just been just really solid. Besides that, plays like you said, probably the best position we have, best third baseman defensively in the league. So definitely deserving of a spot. But like you said, 38, and he's so good defensively. So be interested to see how long he sticks around.
Yeah, it's crazy how he's peaked so much at the end of his career. 4.6, 2.5, and 4.5 WAR the last 3 seasons. He's pretty much as good as he's ever been over a 3 year stretch. That's 12. That's just short of 12 WAR of his age 35 to 37 seasons. That's wild. What a freak. So right above him, we have the younger JT Schwartz. JT Schwartz, I don't know a lot about him, but I love the look of his profile, and he's having a monster season to start the year this year. So I figured he deserved a spot up number 8 there, just below a couple huge bats. Really good all around profile. That I like the look of that one.
Yeah, no, I like JT Schwartz. I asked Zach about him a ton. He was kind of forced out of playing time in Atlanta. It was a tough rotation to crack. But he's been really talented for a while. He's got a little bit of a boost here lately, so it looks a little better scouting wise. The power has continued to grow as the contact. So it really looks like a pretty perfect third baseman in terms of everything he can do for hitting for average and power, getting on base, playing good defense. So yeah, completely agree. At 31, he's still yet to reach arbitration. So definitely has a lot of control too, which is nice
Jeez.
for Arizona. But yeah, a really good player there.
And I'll point out too, it looks like from his profile, he could be a very, really solid second baseman. I think he'd probably be just good at second base as third base. He has the 55 range, 55 air, 55 turn, with a pretty good athleticism. At 6'4", 55 power. I think that guy might be one of the top. Looking at my list here, I'd imagine if
Hmm.
he was trained up there, he'd probably be right around the same spot at second base, maybe like sixth or seventh best in the league. That's pretty nasty offensive profile, whether you play third or second. So what a nice player there, and really high level first baseman too. He played there at some point, so good late game
Yep.
substitution. Have an elite defensive first baseman there if you wanted. Pretty nice player. Next up, we
Yeah.
have the
I
older veteran.
I do think I
Oh,
do
sorry.
think we skipped Gorman. I would hate to cut the Cubbies out of this
Oh,
at
that's right.
9.
Yeah, we must
Yeah.
have jumped right over him. So I actually, yeah, I just skipped right over at number 9. So what can you tell me about Nolan Gorman? His ratings aren't quite as good as these other guys, but he's got the overall profile of how much he's dominating this year. I didn't want to put him any lower than that.
Yeah, no, he's kind of defensively similar to what we just mentioned with Schwartz, where second or third can get away with both very, very well. This year has been ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. I know he was kind of a big piece floated around at the deadline last year. Didn't end up moving or anything, but was good in his games for Atlanta and has really good. You look at his early career, 55 home runs. I even forget about that season
What?
in
Wow.
2025 in St. Louis. But another guy, he's in his 30s, kind of having a little bit of a mid to late career resurgence here in Chicago. So good to see him getting some full playing time, which he hadn't gotten in a couple seasons, and he's making the most of it.
Yeah, what an awesome season. On pace for 6.8 WAR with 48 homers. That's incredible. Because yeah, looking back at his history, he had one WAR back in 2026, and then every year after that, for the next 3 years, is about zero WAR, and then last year he bounced back a bit, 16 home runs. But yeah, what a him and Austin Riley. That's so cool. Both at the age of 31, I
Hmm.
think Riley might be a year too older. Just having monster power seasons there in the early 30s. I love that. It's one of my favorite things about out of the park. So I jumped. So yeah, we had him just below Schwartz, and then I missed him. So we're jumped back up to number 7. We have Rafael Devers here. Devers has really held on in this league till an old age. I know he's one of those guys in out of the park. He has a history of falling off a little bit earlier. This league, he's still a monster, even at the age of 34.
Yep, he's been good for forever here. He was crazy good early for Boston, and like you said, has stayed solid for a while in Milwaukee. He's been here for a while now, eight or so seasons. So yeah, it definitely can still get it done. The bat definitely does. The defense hasn't really dropped at all either. Still having a really good year. Actually, the last two weren't quite up to his level, and he's having a little better of a year now at 34, which is nice to see a good start from him. So yeah, the power's down a bit, but hitting, the average has jumped 70 points from a year ago, which is good to see. So definitely done it for a long time in this league. Been good in the playoffs for the Brewers as well. So we get to a lot of Brewers on this infield, and it's a
Yeah.
stacked group.
Yeah, what a talent. And then looking at stats, he's 52 home runs away from the 500 club. So if he
Mm.
stays healthy for this year and next, he'll be, and those are two of the biggest Hall of Fame voting metrics. It seems like that 60 career WAR seems like a bit of a cutoff for people. So he should jump above that this year. And then if he stays healthy for a year or two, he should jump above 500 home runs eventually. So that should be a Hall of Fame career, but he's kind of on the fence right now if he was to retire or get injured. So hopefully he can hold on a little bit longer. What a special career he's had here. Next up, we got a really special season. This guy we were just talking about before the episode started. Holy smokes, he is producing. Mike Harold, what do you think about the season he's having here? 17 home runs already.
Yeah, leading the league in the early going. I think him and Burns are close there at the top, but he just took the lead this last sim. He's a monster, and it's not like it's a complete breakout with the bat. The average jumping as much as it has is really, he's hit 40 the last 2 years, so the power has been there, but with a little better, making a little better contact. The strikeouts are the problem for him, but The dude can drive the ball all over the place. Not just homers, doubles too with that gap power. So, good guy to get in a Rule 5 draft, I would say.
Jeez.
And he's produced very well for the Nationals there. Good park for him to hit in.
I hate to be a Debbie Downer. I don't see the high bat pip holding up with his contact rating. I'm looking at it now. He's a 40 versus righties and a 35 versus lefties. But with how good how hard he hits the ball, I guess he's just smashing base hits through the lines there. He has a 415 ISO. That's just outrageous. What a season he's had. So even if he doesn't hold up to this level, it still should be a career type season. So yeah, we had to put him above Devers and Schwartz there, just with how ridiculous he's been this year. You can't really put a guy any lower than 6, I don't think, that has on pace for like 9 or 10 WAR, and on pace to break the home run record there with 77. So we'll see. Like I said, I'd had hard to imagine him keeping up that pace, but who knows? He's having a pretty special season, so we'll keep an eye on him for sure. Next up, we had Nate Crawford for the Yankees. Some people might say it's a little bit of Yankee bias to have him above Harold, but his profile overall seemed a little bit better to me, and he's also having a pretty solid season. He had a huge year last year. Nate Crawford here, 75 arms, 75 air. That jumped off the page with his power there to me. The contact and his personality are a little bit of a red flag, but everything else he's really good at.
Yeah, I really like Crawford a lot. He actually missed all of last season.
Oh, so it's 2 years ago,
He was
right?
so yeah, he was so good the year before it too. So it was a tough one to, early in the career to miss a full year, but so talented. Hits the ball, for a ton of power. He's a great defensive third baseman as well. So I wouldn't call you out for Yankee bias on that one. He'll be an interesting one, with he's got one more year left, and it'll be, if he goes to free agency, it'll be at 28, 29. So that could be a big, big number if he reaches that point. But super talented, and yeah, big fan of him.
Yeah, that's a good catch. I didn't notice he didn't play in 2030, but yeah, what a monster couple seasons he's had. Such a nice approach. When you have that much power with plus I and plus avoid K and just everything, it's real nice. So yeah, I think you're right about that. I think that'll be a monster extension type guy or a big free agent for sure. So two guys we'll definitely want to keep an eye out over the next years. Harold and Crawford for sure. Those last two guys. Then we had mentioned before the video also about these third basemen. This is where you get a big tier jump. So those guys are pretty good. Those guys are, in my opinion, all in the same tier. Number 5 to 8: Crawford, Harold, Devers, and Schwartz. And then you get a big tier jump here in the top 4. So at number 4, we have Ethan Ahearns, and he has just a ridiculous profile. These guys are so good at the top here. These 4 elite third basemen. Herons is one of the best talents in the league. The guy is so good at everything when it comes to hitting the baseball and playing defense. And he has high intelligence. And he's young still at 28 years old. What a superstar!
Yeah, his profile actually makes me mad because you look at his career numbers and you're like, God, why isn't it, blown up to just be a massive season yet? So you're expecting that to come when you look at how good he is, both offensively and defensively. This guy should be around, having 6 more years, pretty consistently, but yet to be an all-star in the league. So this is, I think, more based off of what his profile is and what he could turn into real quick. Just hadn't seemed, he went to the World Baseball Classic. We had that in 2029. He was probably one of the best players for the USA team in it. So it's crazy what he has done for some teams. Maybe it's just not the fit in Houston.
Yeah, that
But
BABIP's pretty low.
yep, he's been so talented. Yeah, we were touching on that with him too. He's been a low career BABIP guy too. So you're still waiting for the year to plan out. OPS up in the 9 somewhere. So yeah, but just can't ignore this type of profile at all.
Yeah, and a switch hitter just to top it all off. I absolutely love to see that. Out of power hitter is just such a beast. So yeah, he's at number 4, and then we have the veteran Gavin Lux at number 3. Gavin Lux is so good. He can play 3 spots, 4 if you count DH. Probably play a little left field if you ever wanted to. The guy has such a crazy hit tool. He is not hitting for the same power this season as he did in years past, but I'm sure that will come in time. He still has a 60 power rating, just a little bit of a slow start. So the slugging is a little bit down, but he's still hitting almost 280, and he has just proved it for so many years in this league. He's at 55 career WAR. He's a career 300 hitter, so got to give respect where respect's due here. He's actually, now that I think about it, it's interesting. I probably have him a little too far ahead of Devers because when I look at these profiles, I feel like they're almost the same player, and they have about the same career so far. Devers might even be a bit higher, so I might have to rethink that one a little bit on second. Thinking back, but anyways, doesn't really matter. But that's just the point of these rankings, just kind of for fun. But yeah, Gavin Love's an absolute freak here at number 3. He also has a really good personality. He's a spark plug and a high work ethic guy. It's really good for his all his mentals there and helps the other teammates around him. Just a really special player. At 30 million bucks a year, he's got a couple of years left on his contract. Should be a spider for a while.
Yeah, this it's an odd drop off from him this year, especially since he's got to Cleveland these last 3 or 4. He's been so good. MVP a couple years ago. So at least for me, I think that puts him above Devers on this list. But
Good point. Yeah.
especially in Cleveland, he's hit the ball. He's hit the ball so well, especially with their team success too. Him and everyone they've stolen from LA. Him and Bellinger have been so good from them that it's tough to ignore. So. Yeah, weird start for this season. He basically had a wasted 2029 too, where it was so good out of the gate and he was hurt. But
Damn.
he was still good last year, so I'm not expecting any sort of fall. So imagine this will turn around. Still just 33, so has a few good years for sure left.
Yeah, I'm just looking now to see. Sometimes the new game can really switch around some hitters, especially those high contact guys. Um, but yeah, it looks like his contact just went down a bit, which is expected at age 33, but hasn't fallen off much. Still like a plus hitter, just not quite that ridiculous 75 hit tool that he had a couple years ago from my scouts. So, but yeah, still a really high level player there. Next up, we have the top 2 here. These guys are both beast young guys in real life. Fernando Tatis is so talented. That's another guy on the trade block. So San Diego might have a lot of moves in their pocket coming up here at this deadline with both those Tuzio and Fernando on the trade block right now, and their talented middle infielder we'll get to in the next episode. Could be a lot of prospects coming in to replace those guys if they're on the move. But what do you think of Fernando Tatis here at this point? He's 32 years old now.
Yeah, crazy, right? It's a pretty similar profile to Lux above with a little better defense and a little better contact. Um, it looks like they're trying to kill him at third base because he's exhausted and fragile. So I
Oh
hope he doesn't
shit!
get hurt before they can move him. So,
Give him a day off.
but yeah, I'd like a day off for him somewhere in the near future. But he actually had a couple of iffy years, the last couple after being so good, and he's back to kind of what he was doing, and in his late 20s there this season. So that's good to see from him. He'll be an interesting one to see, especially if they're moving, who can handle that sort of contract as a
Yeah, I
team,
don't think I can. Baltimore.
especially with an opt out coming. It's a tough risk to take on. So be interested to see, like you said, perfect personality. He's a good base runner too, good defender. Just does everything you want for a third baseman.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out. I didn't notice that opt out when I first looked. That is a really tricky one because 40 million is so much for next year too, and then an opt out. Yeah, but if he sticks around, he's worth that contract. This guy's so elite. 80 contact with that kind of power is just so beautiful, especially when you're a good runner, good defender, just the true 5 tool player that's good at absolutely everything. Love it. He was a monster for me there when I've had him in my other dynasty. I love Fernando Tatis there. So next up, we have Wander Franco at number 1. He's actually ahead of Tatis. Wander Franco is the prodigy, 30-year-old switch hitting third baseman with 80 contact, elite runner, elite defense, elite arm, everything you look for in a baseball player. This is one of the best players in FTD. I think he probably will be in the top 10 when we finish these. We'll do the overall rankings, which will be fun, which I haven't done yet. This guy is a monster. What do you think about Franco?
Yep, easily in the top 10, probably in the top 3. Coming off three straight MVPs for him, so
Jeez.
it's cooking well for him in Tampa right now. Yeah, does everything. He's hitting in the 300s, the low to mid 300s every year. Plays a great third base too defensively. There's not really much to pick out. They got him locked up for the next million
Oh
years
wow.
in Tampa. So he'll be there for a long time, and if he keeps putting up these types of seasons, he'll be up in the all-time WAR rankings before it's all said and done.
Yeah, if he's on pace, he's at 70 already, so he should be. If he plays another 6 to 7 years to be safe, he probably played more, but at that pace, he'd probably be well over 100. So yeah, of the entire league, I think only Trout and Bellinger usually get to about that point. Acuna is probably pretty close. The all-time, it's tough to get above 100 career WAR. That's pretty elite, insane group there. So Arenado's actually right up there too. I think, is he not? Right about 95 or
Hmm.
something. So yeah, that's
Yep.
really special talent. So that's it for this episode. We went on quite a bit, but I had a lot of fun. So if you guys stayed till the end, much appreciated. Hope you enjoyed. Really fun. This is my favorite video to do, is kind of doing these league rankings. Really cool to see where everyone fits in on things. I can post the screenshot of the actual ranking in the FTD too, so you can see the order, because we didn't actually number them as we went. So we told you them, but yeah, it'd be cool to kind of keep going. So next episode we'll probably do the middle infielders there, second base and short, which will be a ton of fun. Those are like my favorite positions to do. So yeah, it was a ton of fun. Thanks a ton for coming on, Tyler. That was a blast.
Absolutely enjoyed it. Looking forward to the next one.
See you guys.